everyone, I'm Sahasra and I'm going to be your host for the fourth episode of Behind the Cause. Today we have the Second Skin Project with us.
Hi.
Let's get started. When did you start the Second Skin Project and what inspired you to create this organization?
Um, so something that started the Second Skin Project it's actually quite funny. I watched a movie one day and it was called A Different Man. And that movie, I'll give you a summary of it in case you haven't
Uh-huh.
seen it. But um it came up on my screen as a suggested movie and I was like, I'm gonna watch it because my favorite actor's in it. And I watched it, but little did I know that it would change the course of everything I do for the next 2 years of my life. This was my freshman year, by the way. And so it's about a man named Edward. He's a struggling actor with a condition called neurofibromatosis that causes severe facial disfigurement. It's where non-cancerous tumors grow all over your face. And after undergoing a radical experimental surgery to cure his appearance, one would say, he cuts all ties with his old life. And however, his pursuit of this new identity spirals into this obsessive nightmare that he faces. So after watching this film, I started going into a spiral of this like research on why facial disabilities were not properly represented in media and how it in turn affects the community. And it slowly led me to look at the side of society that is so obsessed with how someone looks today. And that's what made me create this organization. And so from watching that movie, I was like, I need to connect to someone who's actually been through this because I've never had a facial disability before, right? And so I reached out to the actor himself. I reached out to Adam Pearson and I got 30 minutes of his time to be able to ask him different questions and what his life has been like and what kind of prejudice he's faced as someone with a facial disability. And he told me so many different things of not being included in his own career, not being included in what society considers like the ideal face. And I somehow found that connecting to my own life experiences, right? As like a South Asian, like we're not included in a lot of different things. And there's racism and colorism and there's terrible things going around. And so I was able to connect to him. And that's where the idea of like, okay, I need to start an organization or an initiative where I can help change the world, whether it's through like 20 minds or 200 minds. Like I need to start something that can educate people on what this topic is about. So that's where Second Skin started from.
That's very inspiring. Like I love that.
Thank you.
Thank you for starting this organization. This is recently in this generation and stuff. Appearance is a really, really big thing, and I love that you started Second Skin because
Thank
of
you.
that. What has been the biggest challenge in educating the world about disabilities?
I think one of the biggest challenges is that there's already a set mindset,
Yeah,
right? I
definitely.
think it's with every problem out there, not just disability. It's like, on racism and homophobia even, right? It's like the way people are raised. And it comes a lot from like their backgrounds and what their belief systems are. And there's so many different pieces of somebody's life that can play into the prejudice that they feel about a certain topic, right? And so I think many people don't intentionally discriminate. They just haven't been exposed to accurate information or like meaningful interactions with people who have these conditions.
Yeah, I
And
feel like there's just like stigma
yeah,
around it, even though people don't even know what it is. They're just like, oh, because of like hearing stuff and
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. And, part of my research, that's what I found was that especially because everything that we learn a lot of what we learn is from movies and TV shows and,
yeah.
TV, right? And so I conducted a research study that's going to be published by the end of this year with a PhD professor.
Oh,
And
congratulations.
thank you. And I worked with her, and we found out that 70% of characters in television and film are represented in a negative light that have visible differences and disabilities on their faces compared to the 30%, which is, positively represented. And so then
Mhm.
comes the question of like, how do we change that, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's the biggest challenge of educating the world is because it's so rooted in like these old traditions and these old belief
Yeah.
systems. And, it's up to us, like, because we're the new generation. So
Yeah.
we need to, start educating the old generation and our generation as well, right? So
Mhm.
I think that's our biggest challenge.
Yeah. How has your organization made an impact in our community so far?
So we focused on both educating people, but also taking action because that's also really important, right? So instead
Yeah.
of just posting on Instagram like a lot of organizations do, just Instagram posts, we've um, gone out of our way and we've spoken to students in classrooms. Um, this year we're gonna go to a few elementary schools and we're gonna do a food presentations.
Oh,
So
that's
we've
nice.
got that planned, and we've organized community events. We have a lot upcoming this year. We're creating a short film. I'm writing a
Oh,
book on this
a
topic.
short wow. That's very impressive.
Thank you. And again, we're trying to interview as many advocates as possible online, like I did with Adam Pearson, because that was really inspiring for me and for his online community as well. And so we want to
Mhm.
reach out to more communities like that. We've organized fundraisers, we've done bake sales, community events, donation drives, and we've raised a ton of money to support craniofacial patients and other initiatives. And I think the most important part is that we've started these conversations amongst people. And
Mhm.
every time, like, somebody I'm talking to, or I'm like, I'm selling them a cupcake for $3, they ask me questions about where is this money going to, or like, how is this going to affect people? And I get the gift of being able to tell, this older person or younger person that this is going to go to someone, who needs surgery for their craniofacial disability. And this is going to go support someone in need. And it's really great to see them like smile after that and tell me that they didn't really know about this topic until us. And so I'm glad that we're really getting word out there somehow. So,
Yeah, you're like so inspiring, and I
oh,
love
thank you.
I love what you
Oh,
guys are doing because I've never seen an organization that's about skin conditions and disabilities, and I'm really glad that you started it.
thank you.
Do certain skin concerns and disabilities have more stigma than others?
Unfortunately, yeah, that's just how it is. Conditions that are more visible on your face, carry greater social stigma because
Yeah.
faces play such an important role in communication and first impressions, right? The first thing you notice is their face, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so people with visible differences can experience, staring, bullying, assumptions about, if they're capable to do this job that they're applying for, and, you know, include social exclusion. I mean, really, like the first thing when you look at someone with like a facial disability, like according to stigma, it's just like, are they even able to contribute to society? Or like, that person doesn't look like me. And so
Mhm.
they're just less than me. And so that's the problem is that the common issue is that people make assumptions before understanding someone's story because we don't know what people go through, right? And I
Yeah.
feel like especially in these times, we need to have the patience to really understand what someone's going through
And
with
like
their
look
past and their
beyond
present.
their face and their
Absolutely. Yeah.
appearance.
Yeah.
Adding on to the question, how can that affect the process of bringing awareness to them when compared to more common issues?
So less common conditions often receive less media attention and they receive less funding and fewer educational resources because many people have never met someone with said conditions, and these like misconceptions can spread a lot easier. In my book I'm writing, for example, I used a less commonly known facial disfigurement. It's called hemifacial microsomia, and it's where one side of your face is, some features are a little misplaced than others. And so they need reconstructive work to be done to support their organs. And so when people hear real experiences or meet individuals or see proper representation, we can replace these assumptions with more of an understanding, right? And awareness just becomes a lot more person to person than it is just like a number or a numeric statistic. So, yeah.
I love that. Starting this nonprofit, what's one thing that surprised you the most once you started spreading awareness about people with disabilities and skin conditions?
The biggest surprise is that how willing people were to learn. I think that
Yeah.
caught me completely off guard. Um, I I did expect some resistance. I expected hate comments on social media because I've seen bigger nonprofits than me have mixed reactions through my research. And so I've just found that people haven't been exposed to these conversations before, especially when it's face to face, right? And
Yeah.
so once they understood the experiences of people with facial disabilities to their best extent, they became incredibly supportive. And that's what caught me off guard. And I also realized that one conversation can have like a ripple effect. And
Yeah.
someone who learns something today, right? They can teach their friends, their classmates, or their coworkers. And that's how we start change
Yeah, I feel
in
like
today's time.
because of the stigma surrounding people, even though they don't really know exactly what it is, they just assume stuff before actually
Yeah,
figuring out what it is and
yeah,
stuff.
absolutely. Yeah.
How do you go about creating awareness? You've actually mentioned this before, but do you guys fundraise money to donate, educate people on skin conditions, or like etc.?
Yeah, we do. We fundraise and then we mainly try to get out through person like in-person events because we find it easier to connect to people that way.
Yeah.
Um, Online events are usually our style. And I have a great team. Shout out to Viha, Ritvi, Natalie, and Mahi because they're like the best team someone can have, honestly. I just give them ideas, I toss it out, and they plan it out and they help me execute it. So honestly, without them, like none of this would be possible.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Um, why is raising awareness about skin conditions and disabilities important, especially among younger generations?
I think it's important to realize that representation is not something that's abstract. It's something that shapes who gets welcomed into certain communities, who gets hired at jobs, who feels loved and cherished as a person, as well as who gets left out of the crowd. And when people with facial differences are written as integrated members in their fictional worlds, I'm saying this as like a media standpoint, right? We as a society take one more step towards making that reality into our physical one. And so the takeaway is that, we need to accept these people socially, in the media. We need to treat them like we treat ourselves. We need to give them allies, lovers, families, coworkers, right?
Yeah.
And so the stories that we tell about facial disabilities can either fortify a future of exclusion among us or our future children, or it could model the inclusive world that we all claim that we have and we value. And so
Yeah.
if we do it right, we won't just change people's minds, but we're also changing lives at the same time. And I think that's what our mission is at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For someone listening who wants to make a difference but doesn't know where to start, what would you suggest?
I would say start small. Um,
Yeah, definitely.
I I I've never had a nonprofit before this. I really haven't. And I've seen people try to reach the top so fast in a short amount of time, and it usually doesn't work out well. And I think that you need to be aware that, this isn't something for your college applications or, just like something that you're doing for fun on the side. It should be something that you're really willing to put in the work and the time and the effort to creating a better future. And something for me is that I put in like 100+ hours into this project that I've created, and because I'm really passionate about it. So find a topic, start small, and it really depends on the topic. I mean, if you want to start something with skin conditions, I would say learn about the conditions you don't know about. You can listen to experiences of people with said conditions and then challenge those stereotypes. I feel like that isn't said enough. We need to go against stereotypes. We need to include everybody in the conversations today. Like me, I don't have a facial disability, nor do I have a friend that I know with a facial disability. And I feel like people think that discredits me because of what I'm doing and because I'm speaking out for people with said facial conditions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the truth because I need to reach out. I need to reach out to people with conditions and I give them a platform to speak out on, right?
Yeah,
And I think that's the most important part is that, I do this for the future change. And I think that's something everybody should keep in mind.
I love what you guys are doing. Like whenever I'm like hearing your answers, I'm like, wow. What is your biggest goal for this organization?
Cool. Good question. Um, I think our biggest goal, like I said earlier, is to create a world where facial differences and visible disabilities are seen as normal parts of human diversity instead of something that's like unusual or off-putting. I
Yeah,
want future generations to grow up seeing people with facial disabilities represented positively in schools, movies, advertisements, leadership positions, and just everyday life. And if a child with a facial difference can walk into a classroom without worrying if they're going to be stared or judged at, I think that we've succeeded at some point. And so, I know how small we are right now, but the amount of growth that we had in 2 years is so, so great. And I think the amount of growth that we're going to have in like the next like 5, 10 years is going to be larger. And I hope that, people join the mission and they help us change the world because that's what we're looking to do.
I love that. Good luck. Good luck on
Thank you. Thank you so
this
much.
project. Well, that's all the questions I have for you today. Would you like to share anything for our audience?
Follow our Instagram. It's at the Second Skin Project, and we thank you for all your support to our project. And it's a great time. Thank you, Sahasra, for
Thank you. Thank you for
for
joining
doing
us. I
this.
love
Yeah,
y'all's organization and your answers are truly really inspiring. And I love that
thank
you're
you
trying
so
to like
much.
change something.
Oh yeah.
Anyways, thank you for joining us for this
Mhm.
episode. And guys, remember, this isn't just a conversation, it's a movement.